The absolute worst thing you could be in the National Football League is mediocre. If you're in that pocket of teams between 6 wins to 10 wins, that's no place to be. It is the worst because you're not going to get a high enough draft pick to be able to draft a quarterback that's going to potentially change the fortunes of your franchise. You're not realistically going to be a championship contending team. You'll win just enough games to make some people think you're better than you are, other people pissed off as hell because you're wasting your time, and that's the reality. Now, I can sit here and say, hey, if you're going to tank, you do it right, and you do what the Jags did last year. But remember, they won their first game. Then they lost all the rest of them, and they got to the point where they intentionally tried to tank. Like, you watch that game against the Bears, and you think they weren't trying to tank, like, you're a clown. Let's be clear. But tanking doesn't mean as much when you have plenty of other bad seasons and lots of other years with top 10 picks and top 5 picks and top 3 picks. And you take guys like Luke Jokel and Blake Bortles and and then you draft a Dante Fowler and a couple years later you trade him. You draft a Jalen Ramsey in the top 5 and then a couple of years later you trade him. Like, you get the point. Leonard Fournette, you take in the top 5, and a couple years later, you're releasing him. Like, so as much as we could talk about a new beginning for the Jags, and they did it right, let's not pretend like their results weren't them largely tanking for the past decade anyways. They just didn't know what the fuck they were doing. I can't believe David Caldwell got as long in charge of this organization as he did. Like, Shad Khan, I don't know what the hell you were thinking. That dude should have been gone a year or two before. Like, easily. And then letting Doug Marrone ride out the string. Oh, because Gus Bradley was so bad. Oh, you found out quickly about Doug Marrone. God almighty. Just terrible. But if you are a Jags fan, you probably feel some reason for optimism, although I caution you just a little bit because how many times have you been in this spot of being a really bad team and having high picks and that hadn't done shit for you? I mean, you know what I'm saying? But maybe this time is a little different. And it feels like maybe it's a little different. Now, I don't know how enthusiastic I would be about Trent Baalke being named the general manager, but I will say this. I will at least say this. Is that sometimes people are better in their second chance versus their first time. Sometimes you learn from your mistakes and your failures the first go-round. Sometimes you just suck and you're going to be just as bad, if not worse, in the second go-round as you were the first. But we'll see how it goes. We'll see how much power he actually has in the organization. The big news, obviously, was the hiring of Urban Meyer to be the head coach. I'm sick. Oh, you've given me an NFL head coaching job and lots of money. I'm healthy again. It's almost kind of like Larry Brown in that sense. Like, he's there for a few years. He'll turn shit around. He can be a contender. And then he's out of the damn picture. And we'll see how truly long-lasting Urban Meyer is as the Jacksonville Jaguars head coach. But there's no question, at least from a Jags standpoint, there were a few big names that you could have went and got in the marketplace. This was one of them. So if you're trying to change the trajectory of your organization, if you're going to try and change the view, you're going to change the aura, you're going to change what you're about, change the culture. Like, you don't half-ass it by going and just getting somebody else's, maybe successful coordinator. You go out there and you get a big name with some type of track record, a proven track record, even if it in this case is at the college level, of turning programs around. There is no question that Urban Meyer has a fantastic resume of doing that, whether it be at Utah, Florida, Ohio State, and you say, well, Ohio State, how much did he really turn it around? Well, he enjoyed a lot more success than some of his predecessors did. Just saying. So, you got to applaud him at least, if nothing else. We'll see if it works out or not. But they went and got a big name. They went and got a big trophy fish. And then obviously the biggest trophy of all for them was with their season-long effort to tank. They got the number 1 overall pick in the draft, and not surprising to anyone, they invested it in Trevor Lawrence, sunshine from Clemson. We will see in a class that looked to be really deep and talented with first-round pick quarterbacks whether Trevor Lawrence was the right choice or not, whether Trevor Lawrence was the best of the quarterbacks of this class. I personally don't believe he is. I personally believe that in due time the Jags may slightly regret the pick. But when I look at Trevor Lawrence, I don't look at a guy and see a bust. I look at a guy that has decent potential. I look at a guy that could be a top 10-ish type of quarterback in the league. And if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, you could do pretty well with having a top 10 quarterback in the league and having him there for a long time to come. Like, you got to hope that he can be that guy. And I will say, like, for them, obviously, a team in the situation like the Jags, typically you say, well, the success of the turnaround starts in the draft, getting Travis Etienne, and bringing him in and having him there with James Robinson in the backfield and, drafting Walker Little, another guy they bring in for the offensive line, and defensively looking at guys in the secondary like Tyson Campbell and Andre Sisco, Tefele, etc. Like, they had a lot of marquee draft capital here, and they used it. And in a bubble, it wasn't a bad group of picks. But this is a team that's had plenty of other draft capital in recent years, and what the hell have they really had to show for it? They either miss wildly or badly on guys, or the guys that they hit on, they end up running out of the organization in a couple years, trading away and starting the whole cycle all over again. Like, that shit's got to stop. You've got to start building something. You can't just keep tearing it down every time you put something up, like this whole House of Cards thing. But if you're a Jags fan, like I said, you got to be excited because it feels different. You feel like there's a bit of a cleanse coming over this organization. And, you look at this team for Urban Meyer year one, there's that thing of Urban Meyer's system being new. Like, he'll run things offensively a little bit different, and it'll take NFL teams time to adjust. So when you talk about Trevor Lawrence as a rookie and Urban Meyer as a rookie NFL head coach, they could potentially catch some teams off guard and by surprise because, while you could say NFL teams run a lot of similar principles to some of the things that Urban Meyer's offensive systems have over the years, and that's true. There are different nuances and different things that the NFL just hasn't seen that Urban Meyer will be bringing from his experience from the college world. And that initially will give the Jags a little bit of an element of surprise that they can take advantage of. They're going to have a pretty good running game, you would stand to reason. Their wide receiving core, you look at DJ Chark and Laviska Shenault. It's not a terrible 1-2 combination. It's a decent set of skill talent, those two. And then a guy like James Robinson in the backfield, Etienne. Like, you look at these guys and you say long-term, like, these are nice young core building block pieces, offensive playmakers that you surround your young quarterback with. Not bad. So the talent cupboard is not entirely bare here. Lots of questions abound. Pass rush, which feels like it absolutely should not be a concern when you've spent first-round picks in the past couple of years on guys like Josh Allen and Clavon Chasen. Like, your pass rush should be a whole lot better than that. I mean, you once spent a first-round pick on Taven Bryan, granted late first-round pick, but he's been a bust. Your run defense is still atrocious, and I would anticipate it's going to be more of the same this year. Your offensive line, like, you might have paid, Cam Robinson a lot of money, but that doesn't make him any good. You know what I mean? Like, you can pay these guys a lot of money, but if they can't play, they can't play. Just because you put them in a spot doesn't make them very good. And I questioned, like, this Jags offensive line, and I'd have a little bit of concern, at least, about how well they're going to be able to protect Trevor Lawrence this year. And then, obviously, there's a question about Trevor Lawrence himself. He's a rookie quarterback, so it takes time to adjust. I don't think the learning curve, obviously, is as steep as it once was for guys coming into the league as the quarterback, but there's still adjustment, there's still growth period, and there's still time to adapt. So, a lot of the success this year of the Jags or non-success is going to ride on Trevor Lawrence. And let's be clear, the only thing that fucking matters this year is Trevor Lawrence. If you're a Jaguars fan, if you won 9 games but Lawrence sucked, you should feel terrible. That's not what this is about. If you win 4 games, but Lawrence looks like he could be the dude and the rest of the team sucks, then yes, you want that 100 out of 100 times. Because the single most important position is the quarterback position. And while you've had little pockets here of a Mark Brunell or David Garrard, you've also lived through the Blaine Gabbert failures and the Blake Bortles failures, and you say to yourself, well, we don't want to keep living that fucking nightmare again. You need Trevor Lawrence to be the guy. This is the only thing that matters this year. I want to be clear again. The only thing that matters. Meaningless wins, who gives a shit? You want Trevor Lawrence to flash the potential that if he's not going to be an elite type of quarterback, that he can at least be a franchise level type of quarterback. Like thinking equivalent levels to Matt Ryan type of guy. You want him to be showing potential that he could be that dude and give you enough faith and confidence that you drafted the right guy for your team, your organization, your situation, and that you've got the core key future building block already in place. That's all that matters this year. And at least because they drafted Trevor Lawrence, the Jaguars, there's a little bit of an excitement about him. And I'll actually be trying to catch a game or two of theirs this year because I want to see how the young quarterback does. I think this team might win like 5 games. And if they win 5 games and Trevor Lawrence looks good, perfect. Perfect. They win more, even better. But nothing is more important than Trevor Lawrence and Trevor Lawrence showing that he can be the dude. Jag fans got to keep that in mind all year. Fuck the wins and losses. Those are secondary. Primary concern is Trevor Lawrence.